Welcome to the Profitable Farmer Podcast, where it's all about increasing the profitability of your farm by working smarter, not harder. And now your host, business expert, Andrew Roberts.
G'day, it's Andrew Roberts here, and I love this concept called the law of vacuum and how it can be used to create prosperity in your life. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the co-founder of Farm Owners Academy. We help farmers achieve their goals through coaching and mentoring. With combined 57 years experience, myself and my business partner have a deep passion for business and really helping farmers understand the fundamentals of business to run a very profitable company, but also create a very fulfilled life. Learn more at farmownersacademy.com. Now, this topic, the law of vacuum, I'm not sure if you've ever heard about this or read about it. I was introduced to it 20 years ago, and it was through a guy called Buckminster Fuller, who is an amazing philosopher. Steve Jobs was a raving fan of Buckminster Fuller. A lot of very successful entrepreneurs learned from this guy called Bucky Fuller, and he studied these universal laws. So, for example, gravity is a universal law that if you drop something, gravity will cause it to fall to the ground. You can't argue with that universal law. It's a law of nature. And so Buckminster Fuller spent a large portion of his life studying these universal laws or laws of nature. And really, farmers are always working with nature. It's a major part of your life. And I grew up on a farm, and my father's a farmer, all my uncles are farmers, both sets of grandparents are farmers. And so really, I've been surrounded by nature all my life, but probably never really aware of these laws, these universal laws. So really simply put, the law of vacuum states that when you create a hole in nature or you create space in nature, nature chooses to fill that space. So if you were to go out and dig a hole somewhere on your farm, over time, nature will fill that hole in. If you go and clear weeds, nature will then create new weeds and will constantly want to fill space. Nature's always wanting to fill space. Another great example of this, I don't know if you've ever gone and cleaned out your garage, or you might have moved into a new house, and when you first moved in, you had all this space available, but over time, we find a way to fill this space in. So we just do this naturally. We do this subconsciously. We're not even aware of it. But when you understand this, you can, if you like, bend it to work in your favour. And a great example of this, just to share with you a story where this really worked in my favour, was when I wanted to take my business to a whole new level, and I attracted an investor. His name was Michael Choi, and he came into myself, and I had another mate of mine. We all became business partners, so we had three directors in this company, and we were explaining to Mike our 3-year goals, and we had a 3-year goal to grow from $40,000 a month in revenue to $300,000 a month in revenue. And that meant we needed a team of about 25 people. And I remember we were looking for office space. And this real estate agent was showing all three of us these 3 really nice offices in Bondi Junction in Sydney. And we got to the end of it, and he said, "Which one do you like?" And one of the business directors said, "I love the one on the left," and I said, "I love the one on the right." And this Mike Choi that was buying in, he said, "Oh, we're going to take all 3, please." And I just had this big gasp, as did my the other mate of mine, the first guy that wanted the one on the left, and we just went, "I beg your pardon?" And Mike said, "No, we need to take all 3. And we just went, "What do you mean? There's 3 of us, and we, one of these offices can handle like 10. You want to get 3 that can handle like 30, that'll fit 30 people, but there's only 3 of us. We don't need that much space." And he said, "But you guys told me that your goal is to hit 25 team members and $300,000. and we're going to need the space. And anyway, we were very reluctant, but we ended up agreeing with him. And he said, look, how do we grow if we don't create space to grow? And so we took on these 3 offices, and it was a huge commitment from us. $10,000 a month in rent freaked me out back at that time. That was like a 25% of our income went into just paying for office space, and it was really bizarre. But we'd arrive, and we had this huge big office space that was absolutely empty. And I tell you what, there's something about that just motivates you to get to work. This is the law of vacuum at play. And as a result, 3 years later, actually 2 years later, we had 25 team members and we were at capacity. So that was one of the key components, I feel, to helping us grow, that we created a space to grow. And without that, we wouldn't have been able to have a successful company. I see a huge amount of cafes or retail companies failing in this area. They just haven't got the capacity. They haven't got the growth. A number of farmers we work with have this issue as well. They haven't got the scale. They haven't got the acreage, or they haven't got the space in order to grow a profitable business. And that's because the law of vacuum is at play, and it's at play in everyone's life, whether we like it or not. And so today I want to just dive a little bit in deeper and really educate you on the areas of your life where you might find that the law of vacuum is working against you. So we'll talk about, what is it, how it affects you, and then finally I wanted to open you up to some tools on how to get it to work for you. And it is guaranteed to help you achieve more prosperity in your life. There's no question about that. So the law of vacuum is at play on money, on your time, on your health, and on your relationships, just to name a few areas. There's many more areas that it's at play, but we'll have a discussion around these. So how does it work on money? Well, if you've got an account where your money arrives, then the law of vacuum states, I want to spend that money on stuff. Like remember, nature wants to fulfill the vacuum. So if there's $100,000 sitting in an account and you're looking at that money, then subconsciously the law of vacuum wants to spend that. This is where a lot of people struggle, because they might make the money, but then all of a sudden they blow the money. They find something to spend it on. It's a form of sabotage, interesting enough. You might go out and buy something you don't need, or you might even attract in a bill, an unexpected bill, that will just pull that money out. And a lot of people live in this world of money coming in and money going out. And so in some cases, people work even against this, and they go and take out a credit card, right? Or they take on debt that they can't really afford, which is again another vacuum, which creates or causes you just to spend it. Now, the solution to this we'll talk about a little bit more later, but I'm a massive fan of ensuring that you create accounts that when the money comes in, you move the money out, and I've got in my situation, we've got a tax account, we've got a profit account. In my personal life, I've got a freedom account, which is an account that I can't really see. It's like a hidden account that money comes in and goes into this hidden account. So my brain can only see my if you like, my day-to-day trading account, and I know that other money's over there, but because I can't see it, there's not a motivation to spend it, right? There's an opportunity to then invest that money wisely and get that money working for me. So right there, if you don't have the ability to move money into accounts that profit accounts, tax accounts, then you could find yourself struggling to pay taxes, struggling to pay bills, and struggling to make profit, right? So right there's a vacuum at play. Of course, health's another one. If you don't create space to put into your calendar, this is health and relationships, time to invest into exercise, eating well, just looking after yourself, then you won't find the time to do it, and you'll always have the excuse, I don't have time to do it. I mean, but everyone's got the same amount of time, yet we don't prioritize these things. And as a result, because we don't prioritize them, the law of vacuum just wipes it out. And as a result, we don't have any time to work on these things. Same as relationships, right? Like, think about it. If you don't prioritize holidays or maybe date nights or time with your family, then the vacuum will come in and wipe it out and you'll just be busy. And this is a big one in farming. I see this obviously from growing up on farms. There's always stuff that needs to get done, and often that can prioritize over family time, holiday time, health time. I mean, my old man, to give him credit, was amazing at scheduling in a morning tea break, an hour off for lunch, and an afternoon tea break, and making sure he knocked off to have family time and dinner. And Dad was great. He actually never went and worked after dinner. But if you could appreciate that, if you don't have these things scheduled, then you won't actually, they won't happen. It's the same, and this is the biggest one. So time is the biggest vacuum that we have, because if you just allow a week, then you've got this empty space, and what happens is we just fill it with stuff, and stuff just comes in all shapes and sizes. It comes in high priorities, medium priorities, low priorities, but in many cases you will load it. You'll just attract things to do that don't even really necessarily need to get done. I mean, I illustrate. There's a fantastic diagram which was taught to me, and it's called the Bridge of Discipline. And if you can appreciate it, you're standing on one side of a bridge where you set your goals, and you have to cross the bridge over a river in order to get your goals. But you have to stay on the bridge. And it's called the Bridge of Discipline. And the diagram illustrates that a lot of people don't stay on the bridge, they stay in the river. And it's called the river of busyness. So they never, ever get to their goals because they're trapped in, and if you can imagine a river going downstream, and people get trapped in this river of busyness. And really the river of busyness is distraction. It's all the stuff that pops its head up that distracts you, that saying, do me, it calls for your attention, saying, fix me, fix me, fix me, do me, I need your attention, but it really doesn't move you towards any form of goal. A great example in my world could be I might get an email from a farmer that's telling me how crap our podcasts are. That's an example, but I'll run with it. It was the first thing that popped to my mind. But now that might come into my email, right? Now I might get distracted by that and caught up in that, and I might talk to a team member about it, and then I might devise this email that I'm going to send back to them defending myself. And, I could waste 4 or 5 hours on that one email. That's got nothing to do with anything. It's just purely a distraction. It's not going to move me towards my goals. I mean, in the end, if I just ignored it and moved on, then it wouldn't be a distraction. But we get caught up in these things that trigger us, that keeps us busy, but really achieving nothing. And this is really dangerous if you don't plan your time. And this is a major reason why we created Take Control at Farm Owners Academy, our coaching and mentoring program, Take Control. If you haven't done it, I know I'm biased, but seriously, it's a game changer for you. You can check it out at farmownersacademy.com/take control. But I just needed to bump that into this podcast. But I mean it because it's designed to help you learn to create time to work on the stuff that you need to do in order to move your business from point A to point B. So if you don't own your time, then your time will own you. The law of vacuum will come in and it will just fill. It's like a weed. So all this stuff will pop up. All these distractions will pop up. Something will break down on it. Remember, the law of vacuum doesn't care. It just wants to fill the time. So it will fill it with, I find it fills it with stuff. And this is why one of the greatest things you can do to alleviate this is setting up a system to get things done. I'll come back and talk about that very, very shortly. And so a lot of farmers and a lot of business owners get trapped in the law of vacuum, where they get sucked into doing stuff, and really they have these weeks followed by months, followed by quarters, followed by years, where you haven't really achieved that much. Now, you've been flat out and busy, but you haven't been overly productive. And this is the saying: you get trapped in the 80% of activities that produce 20% of your results. And it's not your fault. It's just it's the universal law of vacuum, that if you don't control your time will control you. And so what happens is then the excuse of the farmer becomes, I don't have enough time, or I am so busy, I can't keep on top of this stuff, I am overwhelmed. I'll never forget when I was running my business in Sydney, and I hope Jim may be listening to this. Jim Battens, g'day if you are. But Jim was one of our coaches, and he was relatively new, maybe 6 months as a new coach. And I would do a coaching session every week with each team member or each coach. We had 13 coaches working in our business, and so Jim was one of those coaches. And Jim arrived at a particular coaching session on a Monday morning, and he looked terrible. And I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "I can't handle it. I'm in meltdown. I'm so overwhelmed. I can't keep up with it. I think I need to quit." Like, it was just so much emotion and drama, and he was so frazzled. And so I said to him, "Great. All right, Jim, let's articulate what's going on." And we did what's called a brain dump. This is a strategy to really help you, by the way, if you're in overwhelm. And we literally got him to dump out every single thing that he had to do onto a piece of paper, followed by we time framed it. How long will each of these tasks take for Jim to execute? Followed by a priority, meaning I have a simple priority system, which is 1 to 5. 1 means it needed to be done yesterday. Critically urgent, I'll die if it doesn't get done, right? 2, it really needs to be done in the next week. 3, it can be done after a week. 4, it can be done after a month. 5, it can be done after 3 months. So we sat down with Jim and we articulated all these things that he needed to get done and time frame prioritize. And all of a sudden, Jim realised that his A's and 1s and 2s, or A's and B's, doesn't matter, it was about 8 hours worth of effort. And so in Jim's world, he was absolutely overwhelmed and had no time and was in breakdown. But when we sat down and actually realised that, Jim, you're totally you're in emotion, energy and motion, right? Emotion. You're totally frazzled because the law of vacuum's taken over, and it's giving you a perception that you have no time. And it does this, right? But the fact of the matter is that Jim has heaps of time, but he just didn't think he had time. And so he got caught in a story of, I'm so overwhelmed, I've got no time, I can't keep up with it. This is just, I call it a bullshit story. We see this all the time as coaches, and it's not true. It was just that he allowed the law of vacuum to take over, and he wasn't planned, and he wasn't prioritised, and he didn't have time frames next to everything. So as soon as we went through that process, all of a sudden he had control, and he was back in the driver's seat, right? So he went from the business is controlling me to I'm back in control of it. Because if you're not careful, the law of vacuum will just zap you dry. It'll make you feel overwhelmed, frustrated. You're always broke. You never have time for health. You never have time for your family. It sucks. If you're not careful, if you don't control the law of vacuum, it will control you. And so how do you fix this? Well, 100%, as I mentioned earlier, set up your accounts. I mean, you've got to read something like The Barefoot Investor or T. Harv Eker, The Millionaire Mind. But you've got to get your financial accounts in order if you want to create money. Because otherwise you'll blow it. You'll spend it Not everyone does that. Some people can be really disciplined, but I prefer to not worry about the discipline and set up the vacuum. Secondly, create some space in order for you to grow. Do you really have space? Do you really have space? Very similar to how we bought the 3 offices, or didn't buy them, we rented them. Where could you create space to enable you to grow? This is why having a strategic plan is so important, honestly. If you want to create a vacuum, then create goals, because goals, having a strategic plan that identifies where you're taking your business and having it stuck on your wall is absolutely critical, in my opinion, because that's the vacuum. If you don't create the goal, then you're moving towards, I don't know, nothing. One other quick example, we wanted to grow our business to 150 clients. Actually, take Farm Matters Academy. We want to assist and help over 500 farmers over the next 3 years. And so we have big charts on our wall that we can, every single time a farmer chooses to work with us, we're able to mark that off and say, yes, we've helped one more farmer towards our goal. That's a vacuum. It's something that enables us to fulfill our purpose of helping farmers. And finally, commit and block time in your calendar. Holidays, health. That's why I get a personal trainer, right? I need to create the vacuum, that time in my week to do some fitness. Otherwise, I just won't do it. Training, date nights, health, and strategic thinking. This is why I love, again, the take control process that we embed into farm businesses of having, annual planning, quarterly planning, weekly planning sessions in order to help you get things done, and not just get things done, but get the right things done to move you towards your goals and to keep you on the bridge of discipline. So, in summary, yes, the law of vacuum is real. It is at play. It's a universal law, whether we like it or not, and you can play with it. You can, when you understand the law of vacuum, you can make changes in your environment to create space for you to grow, and create space for your money to grow, create space for your relationships to grow, your health to improve. But you've got to be proactive, not reactive. So with that in mind, one final plug. We have a fantastic 3-month program called Take Control, delivered by myself and my business partner, Greg Johnson. It's just a fantastic mentoring, coaching program to help you embed these tools, if you like, to help you really step up to the plate and run a much more profitable, successful farm. It comes with training where you actually implement goals, strategic planning, set up your finances, all these things that, today was a fraction of what we cover, but there's so much more to it, and it also involves live coaching calls where we help you on your journey. So let us know if you want to find out more about it. Investment's $3,000 just to be upfront, or 3 payments of $1,000. And for those that are listening to this in Australia, if you're part of the household allowance, they pay for this. So you can speak to your case manager if you're a farmer who's struggling. Speak to your case manager because they've got an allowance to pay for this program to help you as well. All right, well, thank you for listening. Hope you got some value out of this, and we'll be in touch. Take care.